Rollo Tomasi, Rollo Tomasi, Rollo Tomasi. I was like, who's Tolo Ramasi? Like, I couldn't even remember his name. And they were like, you have to get him on your podcast. And I was like, okay, my TikTok podcast. And so then I reached out to him. He got back to me. I started reading his book. So like in between being like, yeah, let's meet. I think Rollo thought I read the book already.
Yeah.
I didn't. I played it off like I did though. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to be in Miami to do Fresh and... No, he didn't say that yet. He was like, I'm going to be in Miami. And I was like, me too. I wasn't. Like I had already left.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake
it till you make it.
Yeah, no, I left Miami and I was like, fudge, I'ma just go. So I got a ticket. I was like, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. She's like, great. I was like, get me on Fresh and Fit. I didn't know he was doing Fresh and Fit at the time. So I didn't know that they
That's
knew
the video
each
of
other.
you sitting to his right. Was that the first time you'd met him?
Straight hair. I look like blonde.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you did an interview with him where he's like sitting on a balcony? Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Okay.
There was more to that. It's lost somewhere, but I have it through TikTok, which was the longer version and better quality. But yeah, that was our first interview. And then ever since then, I just started doing episodes on his essays because they put you into like the hole. Like the rabbit hole?
I would do, for my coaching program on Wednesdays of the week you come stay here for my coaching program, I beat the shit out of these dudes. We play basketball, but like violent. Like
Love it.
I make them chase after basketball because I can't make them box.
Yeah.
And at the end, we do read Hypergamy Doesn't Care. Like that is one of the things I make the guys read it out loud. And like a lot of them, you can see they start breaking down, especially the ones that have lost kids, like in a divorce settlement, the ones that have gone through a divorce, it gets real silent afterwards because like, fuck, man, this is real. Because what happens is a lot of times, and we'll go into this in just a second, a lot of the things they talk about in Red Pill, as a man, you kind of knew they were there, but no one had expressed them, right?
That's how we feel.
Yeah, no one had put a word to it.
Yeah.
And then when you finally hear somebody saying these things that you had inherently felt, then it's a powerful emotional thing. Now, for me, it was a thing like, okay, cool. This is now the new information. Let me change my life. For other people, it's like, oh, okay, this is the new information. Fuck women. Like that's the way that's the way it comes through. I've seen some guys
they
get
go
very
through
angry.
Rage, but they've always come right through.
Yeah.
Like I would get a lot of guys that would spam my chats or whatever, like F you, bitch. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it. I would put his comment up. I'm like, he's not pissed at me. He's pissed at women, but like he's just using me as the punching bag, I guess, if you want to say. Yeah. But then I ended up, this is interesting. This is a red pill truth, okay? I would give them the wrench in my chats, even though they were calling me horrible names. And you guys would be surprised what men will do when you give them a responsibility.
Yeah.
They acted so right. Like that, not to say that they need to act in favor of me, but they took it with such pride. They were banning people that were saying mean things about me and shit.
That's what they do in prison, and that's also what they do when you're in a military unit. They take the most irresponsible person and then they make them the group leader.
Yeah. And it changes things.
It changes you.
I didn't know that about the group leader.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Can you describe, a lot of my audience, is not in this community. Can you describe what red pill means, where it comes from, and then the other kind of pills?
Yeah, sure. I don't know that much about certain other ones, but I can give some like a little short synopsis. But red pill, all it is, back in years ago, it was just a space for men to develop their or share notes on their sexual strategy. So now it's branched off into like MGTOW, purple pill, black pill. These, we don't really, how do I put this?
There's no union. We don't all meet up once a week and then, just determine names. People just kind of like.
Yeah. I think what people do though is, how people want to be categorical in their thinking. And when you get stuck in rage, let's say, or you're unattractive, like if you start consuming black pill content, which is looks maxing and stuff, like it's strictly looks, then you end up going that way. Red pill is always like the one that's like, here's info, do what you want with it. We don't care if you're here. That's all. MGTOW is usually, in my experience, guys that have been really fucked over in divorce. And I'm talking, what is it called when the wife takes the kid? and doesn't even say anything. It's like a child abduction, but parental or something. And they have no rights. I've had guys on my podcast that would talk about it, and they were overseas. And so they had to get like the UN involved and stuff. It's a huge thing. And anyways, so there's that. And then where was I going? Purple pill is the red lens, which is red pill, with your blue pill idealism, like on top of it.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to fall in this area when I go live and they're annoying me. I'm like, I hate my audience. Shut up. Let me be romantic for a moment.
Sure.
I'm a woman. Like, I can be so red pill aware, but I'll never be I'll never truly understand the struggles that men go through.
So the difference between sympathy and empathy.
This is something that I disagree with heavily from my neuroscience background.
Okay.
So I studied science, biochemistry, pharmacology, all that good stuff. Never graduated. Degenerate. I got tits instead. Hi, Dad. But like, anyway, so I'm not saying that the talking points about sympathy and empathy are necessarily wrong, but like, you'll never understand how it is to be a woman.
Of course not.
If anything, you look at it like, oh no, if you have like a daughter, you're just like panicked. You're like, I kind of know how men are, but I don't know women. So not to say that we're equal slates or whatever, but I'm just saying, so like empathy, women typically actually have more empathy, just the way that our genes express. Like, men have a tendency to develop psychopathy, or they have a better chance of getting it because of the X chromosomes. Like with women, if you get an X and an X from a mom, it'll just cancel out. It doesn't, because we're XX.
Women are XX and men are XY. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this topic, but like this one I go hard on.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Okay, so in general, and there's some debate about this. So basically, the idea is between borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, which is sociopathy. And I was gonna ask you about cluster B personality disorders. The belief is, in general, and Dr. Buss actually agrees with this, but I don't know how much he studies this, is that men tend to be diagnosed as sociopaths, whereas women tend to be diagnosed as borderline.
For sure.
And they did a study where they took these same diagnosticians. They did not allow you to see the gender of the person you were diagnosing, but just showed the same presenting attributes. And what they found is that all of a sudden these women who were diagnosed as borderline are now getting diagnosed as sociopaths. And so the idea, so again, this is Dr. Martha Stout. She brings this up in her book called The Sociopath Next Door. In the second book, she actually talks about how she personally believes that sociopathy is normally distributes amongst men and women the same. Now, that's her theory. Obviously, you got to do a lot more studies. You have a lot more studies by this, but she believes that borderline is more often misdiagnosed in women when they're actually psychopaths, and then vice versa with men.
So I've worked in women's shelters. I have a very diverse background. I worked in women's shelters. I've worked in homeless shelters. I actually sat in on groups where they would identify themselves as sociopaths or psychopaths. Insane. Great people. Do
you believe that they were? To me, that sounds like somebody who has either a neurosis or is a narcissist.
Well,
it doesn't sound like an actual psychopath.
So, like, you telling me that, I think I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree. My opinion doesn't matter. I don't know shit.
Your opinion does matter, but I understand what you're saying. Like, if you,
in case somebody watches, just don't eat paint. That's my whole thing. Yeah. So, anyways, like, women have a tendency to have bipolar disorder, but the worst type of combination is borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies, and that's what I think the women are having. I don't think it's sociopathy, because sociopathy, maybe in the workplace it would be present, but it's typically not. There's no way you would have to have that gene, in my opinion.
So about 40% of people who have borderline personality disorder are also suffer from antisocial personality disorder. Sociopathy and psychopathy, those are not diagnostic terms. Those are just terms.
Right. Technically they are. So like antisocial personality factor 1 would be psychopathy. And then antisocial factor 2 is sociopathy. It's just how the behavior manifests. It can be different, but I'd have to look at that.
I'd be really interested. I don't know that I believe a person would sit at a table explaining that they're a sociopath and they're actually a sociopath.
Yeah, like something tells me they were like trying to manipulate that test.
Correct. It's not just manipulate the test. It's like they find some level of identity by telling people that they're sociopaths because they think that it's cool. Like an actual sociopath wouldn't care enough to do that. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.